And they are off, so we're just going to get things synced up on our end. Oh, I've got live. Okay, I've got live streamer going. So, are you going to sync them up on Speed Gaming? Oh, okay, all right. All right, I'm way behind on Andy's then.
All right, I think I'm close enough on each of them.
Yep.
Within a second or two.
All right. Well, we are just getting everybody synced up here.
Right, so the first part of the run here, this first segment, is what we like to refer to as the escape segment, where we rescue the princess and then escape with her to the sanctuary, where she stays safe for less than 20 minutes, actually.
Always getting caught, that one.
Yeah. So the early game, the speed tech is mostly movement optimization and a few noteworthy cute strategies, ways to kill guards that we'll see if they execute correctly. As far as movement goes, they just want to hit the doors as accurately as possible, not bump into any corners, and try to compensate right angular movement with diagonal movement as much as they can.
Yep.
First quick kill on the blue guard, you got to pin him against the statue when you spin him. You can poke spin or double spin. Poke spin's a tiny bit faster for reasons that are too subtle to really even notice. That'll get them the first key. They all skip the first chest because, well, they skip the chest in Link's house and the first one in the dungeon. The one in Link's house is redundant. They'll actually get the item later. And the first chest in this dungeon is a map, which they don't need because they already know exactly where to go.
Yep, that's one of the things that a lot of people didn't. When they see a speed run, they go wonder, well, why are they walking right past the lamp? It's in the house. The lamp is actually in 3 different chests. There are multiple chests in the game that change the value of what's in them based off of what you have or haven't picked up. For instance, in 100%, you'll find a boomerang in Kakariko if you skip it and escape. So one of those things that you don't really pick up about the game until you try to run it or start watching speedruns. So we got 3 ball and chain guards dead. All 4 of them are dead. Good.
Ball and chain guards is like the first little mini boss of the game. He doesn't qualify as a proper boss because he doesn't have boss music. But it is a fight that a lot of players have been known to die once in a while. Even good players occasionally mess up just a little bit. You get knocked around a little bit and you're dead very quickly.
Yep.
Luckily, none of them had any trouble with that today. So they all did pick up the boomerang. The boomerang might seem like an unnecessary item that just takes a little bit of time to acquire, but it will actually speed up the game later. Notably in Escape, it helps with mitigation of poor random enemy placement because it's a very quick way to stun them to get them out of your way. Whereas with some enemies, the sword will actually not kill them, would take 2 slashes, which of course will be slower than using the boomerang once. So it improves the consistency during the second half of this segment, and will speed up a few parts later a little more.
Also used for a few interesting strats later in Ganon's Tower as well. That we'll see.
Yep, that'll be much later.
Much, yeah. All right, everybody is in the throne room and about to head into the sewers.
This is the first part where the RNG, as we call it, or the random enemy movement, becomes a significant factor. And the quality of the escape is largely dependent on how well you handle these random factors. Pretty much every enemy as randomization in some way. In a lot of places, it's not really impactful. You can do the same thing every time and it works. But in some places, you actually have to react dynamically and differently every single run. And that'll happen in a few places here.
I suppose we should talk about pumping, right?
Might as well.
All right. Since we're here in the sewers and the rooms that it matters the most, basically Link's movement pattern alternates either 2 pixels, 1 pixel, 2, 1 if you're going north and west, or it goes 1, 2, 1, 2 if you're going east and south. So when moving north or west, you can alternate diagonals along with the movement that you're intending to try to get little pixel boosts. So instead of 2, 1, 2, 1, you can get 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1 if you do it perfectly. If you do it perfectly, I think you can get all 2s. But it's basically the only movement tech that we have right now until we get the boots. So anytime you see the runners walking north or west, and they're moving not exactly 45 degrees, that is pumping. Also, you'll see them walking along walls in north and west directions to also pump against those walls when they would otherwise be moving straight.
All right, the first major decision and the first point of variance strategically is whether or not the players are going to collect what we call the Sanctuary Heart. The Sanctuary Heart gives you a free heal after escape, so if you're low on hearts, it's worthwhile to get it. And it also offers a little bit of extra safety in several points, key points throughout the run. I believe 3 out of 4 of our players have gotten it. Andy's the only one who's rolling deep today, it seems. We'll see how that pays off. This field of Octo Rocks on the way to Eastern Palace is another point where their movement and behavior is largely randomized, and so you have to react a little bit differently every time. Octo Rocks do a full heart of damage with body contact, so you really want to make sure you don't take a direct hit from one of them at this point.
These stairs, by the way, these manual stairs that they're walking up on the way to Eastern, that is another place where you'll see them pumping. You're able to pump both against the left and the right walls, and you get little pixel boosts. In that last case, you can use pumping to get a pixel boost to let you get up the stairs and slip past that last blue guard when you might otherwise need to throw a boomerang at him to get him out of your way. So here we are in the first dungeon of the game, Eastern Palace. A pretty straightforward dungeon, not a whole lot of obstacles, but one neat little trick coming up. There's a room where 4 Stelphos are intended to spawn, north, south, east, and west of where Link is in the room. But by walking into the room in a particular pattern, you cause 1 Stelphos to spawn out of the room to the north and on a pot to the south, leaving only 2 that you have to kill because the north and the south don't appear. And it looks like all 4 of the runners were able to get only 2 Stelphos to spawn. So
it's a very cool looking room and very confusing if you don't know what's happening. The next major trick of this dungeon is one that we call the Big Key Skip, which has a somewhat deceptive name because you're not really skipping the big key. But it's a tricky way to get the big key. Normally you'd have to kill every enemy in a room in order to cause a circle of anti-fairies to disperse to allow you to step on a switch under a pot. But with a cleverly executed damage boost, they're able to go right through the anti-fairy circle and lift the pot without having to kill every enemy in the room. And obviously killing every enemy in that room is pretty slow. It's a big room. There's 5 or so enemies. You got to chase them down. It's a nice big time save at this point in the game.
All right, Andy gets it. Ben gets it. Timon is gonna have to go off the stairs to do it. He missed the popo, and Runnerwatcher's got it too.
Yeah, so for that trick, you're gonna lose a minimum of 1.5 hearts, and more if you messed it up at all. As you can see from Timon, if he hadn't had gotten the Sanctuary Heart earlier, he would have. He probably wouldn't have died because when he realized he messed it up, he would have collected some extra hearts before trying again. But it would have been a much more significant time loss.
Yes, score 1 for the Sanctuary Heart.
Indeed.
Much to the chagrin of our friend RPG. All right, so coming up is the boss of Eastern, the Armos fight, and you're gonna see at least 2 different strategies for the Armos fight. Most of our runners are gonna go top right in the room, but I believe Andy is going to do a slightly faster mid-right strat. So just slight differences. Depends on how safe Andy wants to take it.
This is the old middle right strat, and it's pretty easy, pretty safe, and not noticeably faster than top right. There is a more difficult middle right strategy that nobody does in real time. Well, hardly anybody that we most likely will not be seeing. The objective of this quick kill is actually when only one Armos Knight remains, he'll heal and go into an aggressive mode. You see it happening to Timon actually. We want to prevent that by knocking him down to a low enough amount of hit points that you can kill him before he has an opportunity to aggro. So you actually damage him slightly, then kill all the other ones using their rotation to your advantage. Kind of let them come to you as you kill them, and take out the last one.
All right, so we're going to see the first instance of spin speed. So spin speed is one of those 4 minor glitches that we allow. Basically, by after you get the boots, if you charge up a spin, and on the same frame that you release the spin, you press A to dash, it will put Link into a glitch state where he can no longer swing his sword, and if you then touch manual stairs like these, you will start dashing in freely. You'll be able to move in any direction but at the dash speed. So Andy's got it, Ben's got it, Runnerwatcher's got it, and now Timon's going for it here. So that is a Japanese 1.0 exclusive glitch used about 7 times throughout the run, I believe. And it is probably the minor glitch that saves the most time, I would say.
Oh yeah, definitely. So what actually happens here is by starting the dash charge on the frame after the spin releases, it actually lets the dash timer begin to count down, the charge timer. But then on the following frame, it's not able to continue because the spin starts, but it doesn't cancel the charge timer either. So the dash charge timer sort of gets stuck at the top of the countdown. And then when you change between specific types of terrain, in this case, stairs to normal land, it changes your speed from dashing on stairs speed to dashing on land speed. Just a little mistake in the transition between the interactive tiles there.
I'm gonna go ahead and mute my mic while I close the door because baby.
No problem. So they're coming up on the second main dungeon, Desert Palace. They just got the boots, so we're going to see dash movement optimization. Movement optimization is pretty straightforward conceptually. You just want to go as straight as you can. Try not to bump into any corners. Try to hit doors as near the center as you can. The difference between dash movement and walking movement, however, is that you want to move in right angles because that's the only way you can move. And it's actually worthwhile to increase the total distance traveled by going in right angles if you can increase the distance of the dash enough that the efficiency of the dash increases enough, I guess.
All right, so second dungeon, Desert Palace, home of the friendliest boss in the game, certainly the most, the one that everybody loves the most.
Yeah, the dungeon itself is fairly easy, pretty consistent. There's a little bit of random factors, and then it's concluded by the boss that probably has the most consequential and difficult RNG to handle of any boss in the game. In fact, the flow of the game is really nice. Something that runners have noted before is that you start off, just learning one kind of movement. You're just walking around. Then you get a little bit of RNG you have to deal with. Then you get a new kind of movement tech, the boots. And then the whole desert dungeon is just easy dashes, so you get to practice dashing for a while. So it kind of has a really nice transition as you develop new skills and face new challenges up to the end of this dungeon.
Yeah, they really did a good job of ramping the difficulty up in this game. And then we go ahead and screw with that by doing the entire Dark World out of order.
Yeah, well.
Speed running.
Do what you got to do.
All right, so Ben, Andy, Timon, and now Runnerwatcher all have the item from Desert, the power gloves, the gray and brown power gloves. That will allow them to pick up the light green rocks and progress to the second half of Desert.
That's right. So for this boss, they're going to want to use arrows mainly. So the arrow counts are important. They all seem to have a pretty good arrow count except for Timon because he messed up the first dungeon's boss a little bit. So he's going to have 25 at the most when he gets to the boss. Andy can have 29, but I think he'll get the arrow pot to go up to 29. 24 is kind of low. And the other two that have 28, I think they're just going to stay at 28.
Yeah, I don't think Andy's going to get it, but we'll see. I thought he said 23 is his limit, but maybe in a race.
Mine's like 27 or 28.
Yep, he's going to skip those arrows.
Well, good for him. So we're going to let this dungeon wrap up and watch the boss fights, and then we'll talk about the rupee counts and the rupee route, because that is relevant up to this point.
All right, so let's start counting. Timon's grabbing those arrows, by the way. So most everybody's going to bonk off the top wall to get lined up to fire arrows left, then right, then down. Andy gets 5 arrows to land, it looks like. Ben gets 3 to land.
It's hard to count cycles when you're watching different players simultaneously.
Yeah.
2 cycles is the best that has ever happened in real time and is very rare. It requires difficult execution and also good luck on their movement patterns. 3 or 4 is good, and most players will be happy with either of those. Once you get up to about 5, that's when most runners start to get upset with their execution.
It looks like Andy had a 3.
Andy doing the cactus dash. Frame perfect dash out of desert. Saves almost no time, but has astronomical levels of swag. No one else is going to do it, I'm sure. Yes, we actually saw 2 different desert exits from the 3 other players. Runnerwatcher did a safer option where you walk a little bit before dashing south to not have to deal with the Sandman, whereas the other 2 dashed and handled the Sandman in the traditional way. All right, Andy just did fake flippers. You'll see the other players doing fake flippers now. They're going to do a setup where they have to slash this bush and then jump into the water. Really convenient, that bush placement, because it's a perfect diagonal to be able to jump off the cliff 1 pixel away from the edge of the screen transition. And that's the trick to fake flippers. You want to hit the water exactly 1 or 2 pixels away from the screen transition so you can move into it the same frame that you hit the water. And the game will not check if you have the flippers on the first frame that you hit the water, and then it doesn't check after screen transition because it really doesn't need to. It just assumes you already have them. So you just sort of bypass the flippers check entirely in order to swim there. Now, if you look at a map and you see the shortcut they take, it'll seem like a huge shortcut, like they cut out a big distance of movement there on the overworld map, but it's actually only about a 6 to 8 second save, and it's the only usage of that glitch in the run. After this, they come up on Death Mountain, where boulders will rain down upon them and squirrels will try to obstruct their way. This can be incredibly annoying. The squirrels will freeze if you have to slash them, and they can freeze directly in your path and block you completely. This is all random. The boulders can bounce, I think, 4 different ways each time they hit the ground. They have yeah, I think it's 4. I think they have 2 randomized. No, it's more than that. It's like 8 or 16. I can't remember. Sorry. I actually just looked this up recently, the actual velocities, because I was testing something. But anyway, there's a lot of different patterns you can get. It's unpredictable. You just have to react to what you get.
Yep. One of the other things that we saw there, you'll notice very precise movements moving onto the warp tiles, and also precise movements whenever getting into position to mirror in the Dark World. They're going for something called a quick warp, basically by being on a specific multiple of X pixels. It will allow them to cut the warp transition short by, I believe, 14 frames, which over the course of the run, I believe adds up to nearly half a minute if you get every single quick warp correct.
I think it's close to a quarter of a minute. I think it's about 14 seconds.
Yes, it's 14 seconds and it cuts it short by 30 frames. I had them backwards. All right. Timon got the boom dash. He can sit there safely on those pegs and not get hit. I think Andy got it as well. And Ben and Runnerwatcher either didn't go for it or didn't get it. Actually, it looks like Runnerwatcher didn't go for it because the pod is still there, and Ben went for it and did not get it.
So this run is going to have a couple of skips called bomb jumps, like any good Zelda game. The first one's coming up in this dungeon. It's just a small shortcut to get to the big chest a little bit earlier, but it does save enough time to make it worth it.
Yes, basically by using the damage recoil off of a bomb, you can boost yourself off of gaps, across gaps, and the first one is going to be here, this gap in front of the Moon Pearl.
Yeah, you can jump over a gap as large as 32 pixels. Normally you'd have to stand within 2 pixels of the edge of the pit when the bomb explodes to get boosted over it. But for some reason, if you dash into a wall and you're recoiling from the dash, that range is extended from 2 pixels to 6 pixels. So you see them all dash into the wall. That way it's a very lenient trick to do. Boss of this dungeon, we mentioned the last one has probably the worst RNG to manage of any boss. This one has a lot of bad RNG too, and the consequences for mistakes can be much greater. It's not as hard to optimize, not as hard to get through safely, but if you do happen to make a mistake, it can be very critical because you have to fall down and start the whole fight over. And hopefully that doesn't happen to any of the players.
Yep, Andy's got Moldworm down. One of the most common mistakes people make when fighting Moldworm is dashing north and south, and for whatever reason, Moldworm will just knock you out of a north-south dash really easily. So you'll see them generally facing east-west only in this fight.
Honestly, I wouldn't even dash east-west. It's not 100% safe. Only do it if you don't feel like you have another option. Pokes or slashes, if you can just follow him from behind, are best. But if you have to dash, try not to dash to the head. Try to just aim for the tail. All right, now we neglected to talk about the rupee rod earlier. I said we would, but I totally forgot. The minimum you want at this point is 14, and we see that 2 of the players don't have that much. That's not a big deal. 11 is enough. It's just not ideal. So what they're going to do is pull on a tree, and it's going to give them blue rupees, which are worth 5 each. Most of them are going to grab, or the 2 that have enough rupees are going to grab 2 of the blue rupees and then proceed. The other 2 players are going to have to grab 3. And that's pretty much the only difference at the beginning. After they pull the first tree, they have to get 4 kills without taking any damage in order to get red rupees from the second tree. Red rupees, of course, are worth 20 each, and they need a minimum of 104. So getting 2 blues and the 4 reds, if they have 14, would be exactly enough.
Andy just there had the bush guard. Some bushes will randomly spawn a guard or a landmine under them. And spawning a guard under one of those bushes during this sequence is a very good way to, take some unplanned damage and reset that rupee counter. So there are a few backup rupee strats that hopefully we won't have to see. But those bush guards are what to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, definitely. It's also worth noting here that Andy has gotten so much rupees from drops that he can skip one of the red rupees if he wants to. He doesn't need to get all 80. That's a small time save, but since the rupee drops that you pick up from RNG, from drops, are all along the way anyway, you're not really wasting any time by picking up extras and skipping that rupee is just kind of a free time save, and he did it correctly. You want to skip the lower right one to make the movement most optimal afterwards. So far, so good as far as rupees for all of them. They need a minimum of 110, and we say 104 at this point because there will be 6 that they'll pick up without having to go out of their way at all in the upcoming dungeon, which is Aghanim's Tower. This is the most linear dungeon of any dungeon. There's actually no route options at all at any point. There's only one entrance to every room and one exit. So you pretty much go in a straight line, the only way that you can go, and you get through it eventually.
Now, in that third room, Andy taking an odd strategy of just spinning those 2 blue guards. Typically, you try to kill them with a dash so you don't get the prize pack drop, and you are trying to save that fairy to drop in T-Rock. Andy, for whatever reason, just went in and spun them, and unfortunately, he got both the heart and the fairy dropping, so he will not be getting that free fairy drop in T-Rock later.
Yeah, enemies have a very predictable drop pattern. They still have a chance to drop. Most of them are 50% chance, but the pattern is 100% predictable. So we can sort of manipulate those drops a little bit to get the good ones where we want them.
Runnerwatcher and Ben making their way through the dark maze. Andy coming up on one of the most difficult rooms to optimize in the game. It's called the Circle of Pots room because, well, there's a circle of pots. There's 2 red guards in here, and the one on the right has 2 RNGs, 2 basic categories of RNG, and Andy got the worst one where the guard moves left. It's very difficult to react properly to, and when it goes wrong, it goes very badly. Timon got the good RNG where the right guard moved down.
The boss of this dungeon is, again, another one where RNG is a huge factor, but in this case, it is not difficult to optimize because you have absolutely no influence over the outcome of the fight. It is incredibly simple. You pretty much just take whatever you get and hope for the best. It's just a lot of coin flips.
Yep. The way that the math works out is that out of the 5 attacks that Aghanim can give, the first one is guaranteed reflectable. The 5th one is a guaranteed lightning. Attacks 2, 3, and 4 in a cycle can either be a blue ball that is a non-reflectable attack or the normal energy ball that you can reflect. You need 6 reflected shots to kill him. Each blue ball costs 6 seconds of time, except blue balls 4, 7, and 11 that cost an additional 6 because they trigger another cycle. The most you can get without making a mistake is 15 blue balls, and to my knowledge, there are only 2 people that have ever gotten 15 blue balls, and only 1 person has ever done it on stream.
That's correct. 1 person has gotten 14, and based on the way that the fight algorithm works, that's technically the same odds, but not nearly as exciting.
And the 2 people, by the way, that have gotten 15, Andy in a practice room at GDQ, and me.
Yes, one of the top runners of the game, Scrivo, has gotten 15 blue balls live on stream.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I'm not really counting how many of these players are getting because there's 4 of them happening at the same time, and it would be impossible to keep track of all of them. We'll guess how many they had based on their timers after they're done. Well, it's looking like Andy has maintained a pretty solid lead throughout the whole race so far, and not losing it to Aghanim.
One of Andy's donation notifications just came up. All right, so Andy probably only got 2 since he saved 9 seconds on that segment. I think he got 2 or 1.
I don't know how many he got on his PB.
Timon, unfortunately, looks like he got at least 4 or 5 because the seconds are ticking away.
Yeah, Chad is saying 7 for Timon and 3 for Andy. 3 for Andy, and you save time. That's interesting. 3 is the statistical average and most likely outcome. At about a 24 second time loss compared to perfect RNG.
So there's Kiki, the greedy little monkey, and the reason we need 110 rupees. He takes 10 to follow. Yeah, it's 10 to follow and 100 to open, isn't it?
Yes. Also, if you take any damage while he's following you, he will run away, and you will have to pay him 10 to follow you again.
A very good way to lose a run if you only have 110 rupees when you get to him.
Yeah, definitely. It's pretty rare, but there is one enemy movement pattern where it happens pretty commonly. And actually, Timon got that movement pattern, but was able to not get hit, so that's good.
Yep, that northern-facing spear guard. I've gotten that 3 runs in a row now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Luckily, it's manageable if you know what to do. Well, anyway, we're in the first Dark World dungeon, Palace of Darkness. We have to do this dungeon first because the item received here is necessary to unlock most of the rest of the Dark World. This is where the game really steps up the difficulty in a casual playthrough and in a speedrun. And also where the lack of a Sanctuary Heart is going to be most impactful, I think. Or at least one of the large impacts of it is the boss of this dungeon. We'll explain that when we get there, though. This is also the second bomb jump of the run, and I think most people would agree that this one's the most difficult because you have to place the bomb on a specific pixel and also place Link on a specific pixel. It is double pixel perfect. There is a way to buffer your movements in order to adjust to find the pixel more accurately. Since you are on a countdown, you have to be fast as well as accurate. And Andy managed to do it without any extraneous buffers. So the strategy we employ there is to switch our item using the menu after we already get near the first pixel. And we do that to check which pixel we're standing on to determine if we need to adjust our movement at all. And then you have to switch back again afterwards, so you're able to use that as another, we call it a free buffer. You can use the pause menu to buffer your movement, or you can do it a few other ways. The pause menu is nice because it slows down game time by only advancing game time 1 frame at a time, ideally. So you have pretty much as much time as you need to get where you need to get. Alternatively, you can use your sword to buffer your movement, which is technically faster in real time, but it also expends more game time, which means that you have to be more accurate.
A Runnerwatcher, okay, he got it at the last second.
Nobody's very low on hearts, which is nice. There's 3 coming up that they can pick as many as they need. And you really want to be at full hearts here, not just because having full hearts is nice because you're less likely to die, but because Sword Beam is actually useful in a couple of places and will prevent you from having to use the menu. So it's actually not just safer, but optimal to heal if you're down any hearts.
All right, Andy with a clean turtle room and moving on to Helmasaur.
Right, Helmasaur is named as such because he's a dinosaur wearing a helmet, I think. So this boss, you have to break his mask with a hammer first. We're going to see most of the players, or possibly all of them, use their sword to protect themselves while they're hammering the mask. What that does is extends the range of the hammer slightly, but also protects them if Helmasaur charges them, because he'll knock the player back by hitting the sword instead of damaging them. All of Helmasaur's attacks do 2 damage, so the difference between 6 and 7 hearts, or the difference between not getting the Sanctuary Heart or getting it, means 1 extra hit that you can take without dying. Doesn't matter for Andy. He had a pretty much perfect fight.
Another good thing to know in the Helmasaur fight is the fireballs that Helmasaur spits will always explode in a clockwise manner. So they'll either go top, right, left, top, or left, top, right.
Yes, that makes it more predictable and easier to dodge for sure. So after they break the mask in the second phase, they have a few options. They can try to use the hammer. They're going to want to keep their sword out. As I said, it increases the radius of the hammer a little bit, so it'll make it a little easier. They can use their sword, a combination of slashes or spins. Hammer does the most damage quickly. Spins do the same damage slowly, and slashes, of course, do half damage. Kind of a medium speed, but definitely offers the most safety.
Runnerwatcher having some issues.
Yeah, he's going to have to be
down to low.
Oh. Fortunately, he was not able to dodge the tail and fireball attack simultaneously. Just take a death there. In the first phase, he either does a fireball attack or a tail attack, but in the second phase, he always does a tail attack and sometimes also does a fireball attack. And if you get a combination of both attacks repeatedly, then you can be in trouble.
Yeah, Helma is also one of the big run killers. One of the hardest bosses for new runners of the game, just because he does do so much damage. But
yeah, and dodging his attacks is really not intuitive at all. It really takes a lot of experience and practice to be able to do it consistently and safely. And once you're more comfortable with it, you can be more aggressive, but if you're less aggressive, then you have to dodge more attacks. So it's really a fragile balance, and that's, I think, what gives a lot of players a lot of trouble as they're learning it. So after this dungeon, they're going to start doing dungeons out of order. The dungeons do have an intended order. If you check the map, you'll see they're all numbered. So after Dungeon 1, they go to, obviously, Dungeon 4. And there's a couple of reasons for this. One is because they can't go to Dungeon 2 yet because they're missing an important item to actually do the dungeon, which is very far out of the way and would not have been convenient to get by this point at all. And also costs a lot of rupees, and they'd have to change the rupee route, and yeah, so it's no good. So we're not doing that dungeon. Dungeon 3 is actually farther away than Dungeon 4. So Dungeon 4 is along the way, so you might as well do it. Also, the item from Dungeon 4 lets you get a stronger sword, which speeds up every boss fight after that point. In addition to that, along the way you get the flute, which becomes the most important item for overworld travel after this point. Really, it's almost a more obvious route than the intended route, based on all the beneficial factors to going this way.
So Runnerwatcher had a turtle party real quick, and he is down to 5 hearts again. Hopefully that he can get through this Helma fight.
He actually exploits a trick here, where if you break his mask when the fireball is already on screen, the fireball will actually despawn before attacking. So he waited to see if he got a fireball attack when he knew that he only had one more hammer left to break the mask. That's a smart thing to do.
And he is able to finish off Helma. Yeah, so we are seeing the third of the minor glitches that we allow, item dashing. We missed it when Andy, Ben, and Timon did it, but we'll see Runnerwatcher do it. Basically, now that we have the boots, by pressing A and Y in the same frame, we can charge up a dash while using an item. Specifically, we use it a lot with the hammer, like Andy is doing right now. And if you item dash with the hammer through a peg, you just cruise right on by, and the peg is hammered down. So we use it to get over this bridge right after Palace of Darkness on the way to Thebes, and a few other places throughout the run.
Yep. One of the coolest looking tricks, I think. Very simple in how it works and how you do it, but very awesome as well.
Now, this is not 100%, but invariably, whenever item dashing comes up, somebody will ask, hey, if you item dash with the shovel, can you just break the digging game? And no. If you item dash with the shovel, the last hole is the only one that counts. So
you are sort of breaking the digging game, but not in your favor.
but it looks really funny.
Yeah. This dungeon here, Dungeon 4, we call Thieves' Town. Its proper name is Gargoyle's Domain, I believe. In my opinion, this is a very consistent and easy dungeon. Apparently, a lot of people disagree with me there. The only part of it that's really random and difficult to handle is the Hellway, and potentially difficult to handle. Andy's coming up on it. The idea here is to do a frame-perfect dash and get good RNG, and you can dash through without even having to think about the room. If you mess it up, you do have to handle the enemy movement a little bit. That was actually not very good handling from Andy there. After he was 1 frame late on the dash, so it all fell apart naturally.
Yeah, it's very easy to lose 3, 4, or 5 hearts in that room. And that's what just happened. We did also see a quick appearance from Blunt Bunny on Andy's stream. He did bump into a bunny beam, so.
Oh man, rough Hellway for Timon. He got kind of stuck in there. Didn't take as much damage, but ended up having to walk the whole last half of the way after getting stuck.
Also, since you wouldn't think so because they're small and green and pretty dumb, but these little cricket-looking things, if they get you, those will hit you for 2 damage right now. So you want to avoid those.
Yeah, they're pretty surprising in their strength.
I believe they're goblins.
Their technical name is Buzz. They're called Buzzes. And I don't know why. So this dungeon kind of has a strange sequencing to it, in that you actually have to rescue the boss in disguise, bring it to the boss room, and then fight it.
Well, spoilers.
Weird one. Oh, sorry, I spoiled it. Tough noodles. Scrow's a monster. So this boss, I would say, has the biggest contrast between difficulty in a casual playthrough and easiness in a speedrun. It seems incredibly random and chaotic and difficult to get through when you're playing casually, but the fight is completely scripted, and if you execute it the same every time, then it acts the same every time, and that's what you'll see from. I think all these players should have a good fight.
Yeah, basically the indicator of how well you executed the fight is how far to the left you kill Blind. If you kill him, if he makes it all the way into the light, you were a little bit late. If you can kill him before he gets into the light, then you were early. If he goes to the bottom of the screen, you screwed up.
Yes. Good fight from Andy.
And the hammer, you'll see some of the runners hammering Blind after they knock his first phase down. That's just for swag.
There's no real purpose to doing that. A little bit out of off script for Ben there, but if the 3rd phase gets off script, it's usually easy enough to handle. If it happens earlier, it can be much worse. So after completing Thieves' Town, because you got the stronger gloves, you can rescue the Dwarven Smith and get the stronger sword. That is one of a few errands that they're going to perform after completing the dungeon. The other is to collect 2 sets of 300 rupees, which will cover all of their expenses for the rest of the speedrun.
Because naturally in the Hyrule economy, getting your sword tempered costs 10 rupees, but buying a pair of flippers costs 500.
Well, I mean, you think about what those flippers are. That guy had to rip those off of one of his children to sell them to you, and can't really put a price on that.
Nihilistic Zelda, wow. Dang, it just got dark in here.
Well, where else would they have come from?
I
All right, Scrivo, quick test time. Pop quiz. How many arrows should they have right now?
Well, you think I'm ever actually on the right drops when I play this game? 9.
9.
I just picked the number of arrows that Runnerwatcher had right now. 14. Andy has 14.
14 is plenty. I actually don't know. Not off the top of my head. Joe's just seeing if you knew.
Well, then we'll just assume that I'm right.
I think you want... I can't remember. It's been too long since I ran. Anyway, the next dungeon coming up is the Skull Woods. That's the name of the overworld section and also the name of the dungeon. It is going to be starting up this dungeon while Runnerwatcher's finishing up Thieves Town.
That is Andy's second bush guard. He is just waking up all the homeless soldiers today.
Skullwoods, I would say, is a pretty spooky dungeon.
A lot of mummies and skeletons and...
Yeah, definitely. Some mist, in the overworld. Walking into giant skull mouths. Oh, there's also a bomb jump here. This bomb jump is executed the same way as the one in the Tower of Hera earlier, which makes it one of the 2 easy ones. Another small shortcut to get to a big chest easier. Just a little bit more quickly.
Yeah, one main thing to be worried about is health management. Generally, runners at this level don't have to, but since those ropas, those jumping hentai things, will hit you for 2 hearts, it is easy for newer runners to die on the overworld in between skull segments, and that sends you way back to the pyramid, and that is just a massive time sink. So health management in skull, it's a short segment, but you want to keep your hearts about you. Yeah,
and mummies do 2 hearts of damage as well, and there's a couple rooms where you want to handle them very, very delicately. You want to just squeeze right past them, kind of manipulate them in a particular way. And you really don't want to have to use your boomerang on them or slash your sword to get them out of your way. So, if you're not being careful, if you're trying to be too optimal, you can get hit a couple times, and that'll take your health down pretty far. For good players, it's less common, but it does happen. It just takes a small mistake to lose a lot of hearts. And then the boss can be quite inconsistent. So definitely want to have a safe heart count going into the boss. Of course, Andy didn't really need it. He had a very, very good fight.
He obviously watched the Josh tutorial.
Yep. So Mothiel is interesting in that he can actually take no damage from your attacks sometimes. If you hit him into the spikes, then the spikes will override the original attack's damage, and they do 0 damage to Mothiel. The mummy, a couple rooms before Mothiel, you actually hit into spikes to kill him faster. So that's the first example of using spikes to override your sword's damage. In that case, it's an advantage, but against Mothiel, it's a disadvantage. Tempered Sword's very strong, kills him in 4 hits, but only if those 4 hits actually hurt him, which they don't always, depending on what kind of movement pattern he gives you.
Good fight from Timon as well.
And same from Ben. Pretty good. He made one ill-advised slash that he should have known better than to do. But yeah, good RNG.
And he only got 1 hit on the initial dash. Ideally, you get 2 hits on that initial dash into the block. Then you just need 2 more slashes, but still cleaned it up well.
A gold Skullwood segment from Andy there.
All right, so now it is time for a quick shopping trip. We're going to go and visit 2 fish and pick up some items.
That's right. This is the big cost item of the run, and the reason why you need to get 2 300 rupee chests after Thieves Town, so you can buy the flippers. Also known as the finger webs in the Japanese version. They cost 500 rupees. Thanks to inflation, I think. So I know some of you are probably thinking, wow, they're going all the way up here on the overworld. Why don't they just use the flute to get up there, to get the flippers? And to which I respond, ah, you fool. They have to go there in the dark world, and you can't flute in the dark world. Because they want to get the Quake at the same time. They want to consolidate those two trips, and this is how you do it. Unfortunately, it is a long, movement segment on the overworld, but that's the nature of this speed run, especially without save and quit. We really like dashing long distances on the overworld.
Well, wouldn't that make YBA the superior category then? I'm sorry.
Yeah, dude, of course. It's the greatest. Everybody knows that. I mean, no, it's the worst. It's literally the devil. Or maybe it's somewhere in between. This is a pretty fun overworld segment actually leading up to this dungeon. Some of the movement is actually really difficult, particularly in Zora's domain here. The actual walkable area is a little bit deceptive. You can kind of move into the deep water a little bit, and sometimes when you think you can come around a corner safely, you'll actually jump into the water. And jumping into the water a few times in a row is one of the most annoying feelings when you think that you can actually walk where you're trying to walk. So yeah, this dungeon here is Ice Palace. The difficulty, I would say, ramps up a little here in regards to the damage that enemies are going to do, particularly the boss. There is an armor upgrade within the dungeon that's going to be skipped, and that's why the boss does so much damage, I think, is because they expect you to find it. So he'll be doing 4 hearts if you make direct contact damage with them, and that is quite a bit of damage at this stage of the game. Anyway, Runnerwatcher has finished up Skullwood, so he'll be joining them on this segment shortly. This dungeon also features the 4th and final bomb jump. It's more precise than the ones in the Tower of Hare and Skullwoods, but a little bit easier than the one in Palace of Darkness because the bomb placement is pretty lenient, but then the placement of Link is pixel perfect, so it's only single pixel perfect instead of double pixel perfect. Or you could hover it if you're Andy, which he'll try to do. And I guess that gives me a great opportunity to explain hovering. When you stop charging a dash, there's a single frame where the game doesn't check your condition to determine if you should, if your state should change or not. So if you're having to be floating over a hole when that happens, then you won't fall for 1 frame. And also, the first frame of a dash charge, you can move on that frame if you're having to be holding a D-pad input. So by holding the D-pad and pressing the dash button and releasing it for a single frame at a time, and then pressing it again before you fall, you can sort of walk on pits. That's the long-winded explanation.
Timon, meanwhile, doing the more traditional bomb jump there.
Yeah, everyone else probably will.
Ben will do it twice.
And we got Ben running out of bombs, so he's going to have to hover, actually, as a backup.
Running out of hearts, too.
Yeah, I don't think he actually really knows how to hover. I think that was just like a last try backup, just a kind of a desperate move. It's really a shame when that happens because there's no other choice. I mean, you either die or you leave the dungeon intentionally, to go get another bomb. So yeah, that's a shame that happens. Sorry, I was a little distracted for a minute there, but Andy actually killed Cold Stare, seemingly without trouble.
And no, hovering is not as easy as Andy made it look. It's very... It's one of those things that you kind of have to be shown how to do it. It's physically pretty difficult to do. So.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like the technical aspect of it is pretty simple, but it's like actually physically difficult. Like you actually have to train your hand muscles to be able to do it consistently. It took me a few days to even be able to do it like once. And I was getting like blisters on my fingers from trying it so much. But after, some weeks of practice, I developed some consistency. Not at the same level as some of these other players that can do it really well.
Yeah, there's one runner, not in this race, but his name is Malibu Ken, who can hover at will. So if you thought that hovering was cool, check out some Malibu Ken with 3N. Check out some of his videos. He can hover for like 5 minutes at a time. It's insane.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Ben is back at the bomb jump.
We got a lot of bombs this time. The Stalfos have a good chance to drop a large set of bombs. They're actually the only prize pack that has a 100% chance to drop, so you always know you're going to get a drop from them. And the fourth in the drop pack is 4 bombs. Kill a 2 the first time through, kill a 2 the second time through, get 5, 4 plus 1 for 5 total the second time through. So we had plenty to try it a couple times. Unfortunately, that does put him pretty low on hearts, so he is going to have to be very careful.
And he still decides not to get that last heart, so if he would have picked up that third heart he dashed by, he would be able to take at least 1 hit from a falling ice crystal. But he's going to go in there with 2.
Yeah, so we'll see how that plays out. Meanwhile, Andy has made it to the Swamp Palace. Now, this is actually the second dungeon in the intended order. So we did 1, then 4, 3, 5, and then back to 2. So with the hearts that you have, the upgraded weapon, this is actually not difficult at all as far as safety. That's not to say it's an easy dungeon to execute well, but the risk of dying here is almost negligible.
There's Ben getting fairies.
Yeah, really interesting. You don't see that too much, but he really doesn't want to risk dying again in the dungeon, so he'll heal up completely and pretty much have nothing to worry about. Well, okay, he didn't heal completely. He's 1 heart down, but pretty much.
He tried for that last heart from the jelly, but did not get it, so...
I still suspect he'll be fine here.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Runnerwatcher not that far behind, so basically we have 2 races going on now. Andy and Timon are very close, and Runnerwatcher and Ben are very close.
Yeah. Ooh, and the cold stare puffs split up for Ben. But he did handle it well. Once they split up, it can be really dangerous to chase them down with the ice falling on you, especially, their hitboxes can be deceptive, and at 4 hearts, if you get hit, it's very scary. Runnerwatcher took a hit, so he's down to 3 hearts, chasing them around. But I think he'll be okay, yeah.
Yeah, Swamp is kind of like, it's not a hard dungeon. Obviously, you're way overpowered at this point. You have way more hearts than the game expects you to have. But when you're trying to move through all of these rooms quickly, it is very easy to lose handfuls of seconds in almost all of these rooms just due to the enemy movement patterns. So you're not going to die, but you're going to bleed time if you're not careful.
Yeah. It's definitely one that doesn't feel difficult, but a lot of little stuff can go wrong as you're going through it. And then you can just sort of, finish up the dungeon, look at your timer and see you lost, 20 or 30 seconds, just like that. And if you can lose 20 or 30 seconds to enemies knocking you around and not even realize that you're like you didn't even feel the impact, that's really remarkable. That's why it's such a unique dungeon in this speedrun.
I didn't notice it at the time, but Andy's skull segment was a gold, and it has brought him down to pretty close to PB pace, which is...
He's been on really good pace, actually. He got a lead early, and he has kept it, not only against these players, but he's actually very close to his own best time. And his swamp segment was pretty poor on this PB, so he could be ahead after this for sure.
Yeah, I know if I haven't played the game for a week and I need to get back into learning how to move, I definitely fire up Swamp. So this is a good dungeon for practice and a good dungeon for losing time in.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if you mentioned it when it happened, but the fourth minor glitch, the mirror blocker race, you just saw Runnerwatcher and Ben do that, where they spam the mirror while pushing a block and it despawns the block once it goes into its sprite state.
Yeah, really weird glitch. Really hard to explain. You just sort of move the block, you press Y, and then there's no block anymore. So that's all there is to it.
There's a really weird side effect. If you use mirror blocker race, from then on, if you bonk in that room, you will always bonk north, no matter which wall you bounce off of.
Yeah.
Now, coming up is the boss of Swamp is Argus, and you will probably see both Timon and Andy go for a really difficult tactic called Zero Cycle. Let's see what Andy does.
Unfortunately, he messed up the item dash a bunch of times, so he'll get a 1 cycle. And possibly 1 movement. No, 1 cycle, 0 movements. 0 cycle is ideal. Once the first cycle starts, there's like several seconds where, you know, it doesn't really matter how well you execute it. So as long as you kill all the boss before his first movement, you're not losing any additional time compared to losing the 0 cycle in the first place.
Timon's going for, and Timon lost the 0 cycle pretty early on too.
He is going to get some movements. Ooh, almost got a 2nd cycle.
Yeah, that extra hook north almost cost him. And he did not get a hit on with the fire rod, so 2 spins to clean it up. Meanwhile, just a couple of screens separating Ben and Runnerwatcher, who are also about halfway through Swamp. And that puts Andy back on pace. He is 5.3 ahead of PB, so definitely as if he wasn't excited enough for the 25th anniversary race. Now he is on PB pace pretty late in the game, which doesn't happen often at this level. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Ben picking up some extra rupees for the heck of it.
Some reason. Yeah. Yeah, so after this Swamp Palace, they're going to head to Misery Mire from the 2nd dungeon to the 6th. So there'll be a pretty stark difficulty difference between these two. But along the way, they're going to collect a couple of items. The Ether Medallion, which is necessary to open up that dungeon, and the Ice Rod, which is necessary to complete the following dungeon. Most players are going to get both at this time. It makes the bomb route a little more precise. That's really the only reason to get it now. Pretty much anytime you use the flute, you can, you know, get these items because you're fluting to them and then away from them. So they can sort of be placed into the run at various points. There's subtle advantages and disadvantages to different timings, but getting both between these 2 dungeons is the most standard.
Yeah, some runners will get those before Swamp or get one of them before Swamp just to make sure that they're going into Misery Mire with full hearts. You definitely want sword beams for the for the 2nd room of Misery Mire. And it's very easy to take a hit from a boulder going up Death Mountain. So that would be the reason to switch the order around if you did.
Yeah. So that room that you're talking about, the Wizrobe room, we usually refer to it as Mire 2 because it's the 2nd room. And we don't have clever names for all of our rooms like Super Metroid players do. We'll see that from Andy very soon. The idea is to kill all the Wizrobes and every enemy in the room before the Wizrobes are able to fade out the first time. Essentially a 1 cycle of their pattern. It's one of the coolest looking rooms if executed correctly. It requires a combination of sword beams and the fire rod to do. see how he does. Nice and easy.
I don't know if the meme is dead. Let's see if any of the 4 runners do the bird toss.
Maybe. I don't blame Andy for not doing it since he is on pace.
Meanwhile, Ben cleans up Argus.
Yep, and Runnerwatcher just a little bit behind Ben still.
All right, so coming up on Andy's stream, he's going to be entering the torch room in Mire. The Mire torch room is kind of used as a late game checkpoint to see where about you're going to finish. The traditional thought is that it's going to be 20 minutes from the time you light the 4th torch until the time you finish the game. Could be closer to 19 for a higher level player. So Andy is currently expected to get a mid 125, which would be really would be a PB for him.
This dungeon, I'd say, has very little impactful RNG factors. It's pretty consistent if you execute it correctly, but there are enemies that do 4 hearts of damage, not just the boss, but actual, that slug that he went past earlier, the Wizrobes, they all do 4 hearts. And the boss strat involves taking intentional damage, so you do not want to lose any hearts going through this dungeon, except for the very few that you do intentionally. For example, damage boosting across the floor made of spikes to get a key, as we're seeing Andy do.
Yeah, the only real awful RNG, in my opinion, in this dungeon is the bomb slug, and mostly because they can do 4 hearts of damage.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to be coming up to the boss of Mire, Vitreous, basically a giant eyeball and his little eyeball friends. It is a very interesting fight in that we are 100% reliant on damage boosting and iframes. Vitreous is surrounded by a poisonous goo that will do 1 heart of damage. We use that goo to give us iframes so we can get amongst the little eyeballs and spin attack them, assuming that you get to the fight with enough hearts. So Andy looks like he is in more than adequate position to do the optimal fight, and so does Timon.
Yeah, meanwhile, Ben and Runnerwatcher are just starting the same dungeon. Both of them got here with full hearts, so that's always nice. And see how Andy does here. See him walking into the goo to spin those little eyeballs. The little eyeballs do 4 hearts of contact damage, so you need to make sure that the goo hurts you first for only 1 heart before you get into the mess. And very good fight.
Yeah, Andy had a 0 cycle, no lightning from Vitreous. Very good fight. Timon also with 7 hearts, so he's more than adequate for this fight. The minimum, if you're going to do the damage boost, is 5. One of the top runners, WQ, has developed a Vitreous strat where you only need 5 hearts if you do it right. But most runners want at least 6 or 7.
I think, yeah, Timon got 1 lightning, and that's okay. You really want to get 0, but 1 isn't too bad. He is alive, and I believe that's the most important thing.
Yeah, Ben not taking any chances, hit one of those bomb slugs with a fire rod shot to get it out of the way. All right, so now Andy is on his way to the second to last dungeon and the last crystal dungeon, Turtle Rock. Turtle Rock is basically it is one of the hardest dungeons, in my opinion, for a new player because, again, the game expects you to have blue mail. It expects you to be doing have a lot of the safeties. And instead, you're going in there raw with the green mail, surrounded by chain chomps, rollers, pokies, and just all sorts of things that want to wreck your day. So it's usually the dungeon that keeps runners carrying safeties long into their runs.
Yeah, it's also the dungeon where we would manipulate the fairy drop, as we mentioned earlier. But Andy actually didn't do that, so he doesn't have a near guaranteed fairy drop like some of the other players do.
Yeah, so we'll point out when he gets to that pokey room, but basically in the fourth room that we'll see, there's a single pokey that he'll spin attack, and ideally he would get a fairy to drop there, but instead he'll probably just get I don't know what.
He'll get a magic drop.
Small magic or a big magic?
Should get a big magic drop if he didn't get one in Palace of Darkness. But I didn't notice when he did the bomb jump if he got a drop. I don't think he did. But we'll see. Yeah, that's actually really important because right at the beginning of the dungeon, you actually do a couple of damage boosts. Or you take damage intentionally a couple of times. The first time is in the torch room where you intentionally fall off the platform to get back to the door faster. That's only 1 heart, but then you take damage on a roller, which is 3 additional hearts of damage. If that goes correctly. If it goes wrong, you could take more, but I don't expect it to. Ooh, actually, that was not smart to go back into the roller like that. He could have avoided damage there. Well, oh, okay. Yeah, that's what I mean by it can go wrong. So yeah, 4 hearts means he can die in 1 hit to the enemies that he's going to have to face next.
Yeah, picking up that last heart that he grabbed really doesn't do him much good because you die just the same with 3 hearts or 4.
That's right.
But that's, when you're on pace, the nerves are real.
Looks like a good chomp room, though. Yep, got through it fine. The trick there is to be standing on the pillars when they arise, so they give you invulnerability frames when you push the blocks so you can walk through the chain chomps. It can be a really tricky timing and movement to get used to, especially when the chomps can occasionally give very bad patterns, but when it goes cleanly, it seems super easy. Not just from a viewer standpoint. When you're playing it and you do it correctly, you're like, why do I ever mess this up? And when you mess it up, you're just like, man, this is impossible. But he's not out of danger yet.
Timon also with 4.5 hearts had some roller trouble, but he should get the fair, and he does. So Andy is still down to 4 hearts, and he's still got a few more pokey rooms to go through. There's a room coming up called Pokey 2 that, if it goes wrong, it is very easy to send a stray Pokeball flying and end your run. So
yeah, and that can just
be very careful. Andy, of course, is notorious for bad luck and getting sniped by Pokeballs. So,
ooh, but he got the best pattern there. So he gets through it nice and easy.
Yeah, there's 16 patterns you can get. Each of the 2 Pokies can go in 4 directions, 4 times 4, 16. If they both go top middle like that, you can kill them both with 1 spin. So that is the best pattern to get. Andy with the bonk over the roller. I'm a little bit clenched for Andy right now. 4 hearts is not... 3 hearts is not the amount you want to have.
Now, he is going to use the hook shot for safety here. These fire bars would take off 1 more each. And because he messed up the timing by falling in the hole, he would got hit by probably a couple of them. Oh, he's letting one of them hit him. Okay. Oh, well, we'll see what happens here. He has to dodge a laser, which again does 4 full hearts of damage, so 1 hit kill if it hits him. This is the laser skip. Somewhat difficult trick, but he's no stranger to it. In safe and out safe. Now all that's left is, well, a couple rooms. Another pokey room where a little bit of bad luck could mean getting hit. And of course the boss fight, which shouldn't be a problem for him. Meanwhile, Timon's not too far behind, coming up to the laser skip room pretty soon, and the other two racers are just starting this dungeon.
For those wondering why we're calling them Pokies, they look like the cactuses from Super Mario World. It is not a Pokemon reference.
No. Their name is Hokey Pokey.
Hakubaku.
Right, well, Hakuboku, but we're pretty sure that means Hokey Pokey. That's just the Japanese name.
Looks like no problems for Andy for the two heads on Trinex.
No, he got through the boss fight okay. Timon actually had a little trouble with, I think, the laser skip. Brought him down to 1.5 hearts. So we'll have to have just as scary of a boss fight as Andy did.
Andy may still be close to pace. I'm not sure. He had a few hiccups in that dungeon. No, he looks like he's losing.
Yeah, he'll be a little bit behind here. Is Ganon's tower on his PB actually... Oh wait, I can't see it because his splits don't show it. Never mind, I was looking at the Ganon split. I'm like, that's really bad. But no, that's actually 2 different splits combined. Let's see, good try next from Timon. He played it safe by doing the spin on the right side, so he didn't have to worry about getting pinned in the corner. Ben and Runnerwatcher have both gotten to the change humps safely, both at a healthy heart count going forward. Oh, and Ben only just now got his fairy, so he's actually very well off now. Him and Runnerwatcher both are very good on heart counts.
All right, and Andy is heading into the last dungeon, Ganon's Tower. Ganon's Tower has a lot of very difficult to optimize rooms, Mimics rooms specifically.
Yeah.
But when done well, I think that was the first time that I was truly impressed by A Link to the Past speedrun, was seeing Ganon's Tower done really well.
Yeah, it's a very hard dungeon to do. It actually is, somewhat of a contrast to the previous 2 dungeons because there's no enemies here that are going to do 4 or even 3 hearts of damage. There's some that do 2, so the risk of dying might seem lower, but it's just such an endurance test. There's a few places where you can heal, but you really don't want to go out of your way to do it. So much can go wrong. I mean, you can get hit 100 times by little guys, or you can make 100 little mistakes. It's a very difficult dungeon.
All right, so here's one of those boomerang tricks. Andy's going to throw the boomerang down, quickly switch to the hook shot, hook to the right, and let the boomerang clip the switch while he hooks through the pegs.
Yeah, a little snazzy trick for you there. Ganon's Tower is the final dungeon of the game. There are going to be 3 boss refights. That is the 3 Light World bosses, and then you'll have to fight a variation of Aghanim, who is also a Light World boss. Much harder this time, though. And then after that, the final boss, Ganon.
Yep, so that first boss that we're going to refight is Armos, but this time he is on ice, brought to you by Disney.
Yeah, a little bit spicier of a boss fight.
All of the runners will be going with the bottom right positioning. I believe they'll be going with the 3 and 2 strat. Yep, 3 up, 2 left, and then they go back up and clean it up. Now, I don't think any of them, if you were going to pick up the last safety, the red mail, now is when you would do it, but I don't think any of these 4 are going to.
Nah, I doubt it. It's about 20 seconds out of the way, and it's only beneficial for the last few minutes of the run. It's very unlikely that any of them will feel the need to get it. Good try next from Ben. Runnerwatcher in the fight comfortably, though, as far as his heart and magic count. And he should have no trouble closing it out.
Andy in the Mimics rooms right now.
Very difficult rooms to optimize. You gotta control your own player and also manipulate the enemies since they do duplicate your movement. A little bit of a sloppy ice Armos from Timon here. Had just enough arrows. If you run out of arrows and have to resort to any other weapon, it's really unfortunate.
Yeah, Timon has seen a red Armos on both of his Armos fights. Kind of unfortunate.
Yeah. Andy's entering what we call the Gauntlet, which is a series of 5 rooms where the only objective is to kill all the enemies and get through. There's some fun challenges here, like BMO's turrets on conveyor belts circling the room, as well as enemies that are difficult to deal with, especially when you're trying to chase them down on those very same conveyors. There's ice, spikes in some rooms, just kind of a torturous set of rooms. They can go very poorly if they start to go poorly because of all the randomness of the enemy movement, especially when you're trying to move on ice.
Yeah, Gauntlet 2 did not go very well for Andy, but 3 and 4.
Yeah, overall it was pretty good, I'd say. And then the next boss refight is Lanmolas, this time with a little fireball turret in the corner. But you're so much more powerful now with the fire rod that, yeah, it's really easy to get through it anyway. It's really the case with all these refights. You know, the bosses are spiced up a little bit, but you're so much stronger that you really don't have a lot to worry about there.
All right, now you're going to see 2 rooms at the Cane of Samaria, 2 of the coolest rooms, in my opinion, in the game. The first one where you lay a cane block and take out 3 whiz robes, and then again on these conveyors where you lay a cane block and take out 3 again. At least one of those is intended for the strategy guide, but the second is not.
So yeah, we actually have all 4 racers in the same dungeon at the same time now.
Timon entering land mode 2. Andy is on his way upstairs, making his way towards Moldorm 2.
That's right. The Moldorm fight, the battlefield is a little bit different this time, but you have such a strong sword. It should be a very fast... well, Andy's probably going to hover before I even finish that sentence. Let me correct myself. And not his best attempt, I gotta say. Unfortunately, his pace wasn't bad up to this point. That fall may have actually been pretty critical, because he was very close to PB pace going into this dungeon.
Yeah, I think he lost about...
Shoot. If he had made it on the second try, it could have still been very close, but a second fall is critical.
Well, he lost about 5 to 10 seconds early in Ganon's Tower. Gauntlet 2, he lost a few seconds, and then he had to wait for a spike in Mimics 1.
Yeah, lots of little stuff like that really adds up. Even if a lot of it goes well, if a few things go wrong, it can be pretty poor.
Well, let's see how stubborn Andy is. That was 3.
He's just going to keep doing it. He'll never not try. I'm pretty sure. But this is going to make the race a little closer because Timon is actually coming into Moldorm 2 now and killing him properly. With 1 slash and 1 spin with this sword is all it takes. Timon is kind of low on hearts, which means Ganon's going to be a little bit scary. In fact, they're finishing this fight pretty similar timing. The streams do have a little bit of a different delay. So Timon is actually taking the lead now, even though in the video feeds they appear to be very close. So hopefully he does not have a bad Aghanim 2 or Ganon fight, because at 2.5 hearts, death is a realistic possibility. So for Aghanim 2, it's going to be three entities here. All 3 of them can fire their energy balls at you, but only one of them will take damage from the deflections. So you got to try to tactically move around them using a combination of guesswork and geometry to try to hit these back at them.
I was told there would be no math.
Oh, sorry. Just guesswork then. Yeah, so Timon had a decent fight, lost another heart, but got through it okay. Andy's was a little more rough. Meanwhile, Ben's finishing up the gauntlet, heading into Lamola's 2, and Runnerwatcher will be entering the gauntlet very shortly.
I wonder if Timon's going to take the intentional Ganon hug.
I don't think he will. Any attack that Ganon does will kill Timon here. Some of Ganon's attacks do as much as 8 hearts of damage, but that's not really relevant for him. For Andy, some of his attacks do 2 and 4 hearts of damage, so not every one will kill him, but if he touches his body, he will die. Or if he gets hit twice from some of the other attacks, he could die still as well.
Timon with the easiest of the second phase RNGs, top right there.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to differentiate between the first 2 phases because they get to the first phase so fast. But you want to get 12 hits on each phase, where a spin counts as 2, and if you can pin yourself against the wall while spinning, you can actually get a double spin for 4 hits. So it's kind of 24 hits quickly at the beginning. He'll warp it. Well, he'll start in his starting position, warp to the bottom, and then that's it. That's the first 2 phases. Third phase, you only have to hit him once each time he lands. Whether or not he lands is a 50-50 coin flip or warps again. We just call those simply warps. 50% chance to lose a couple seconds every time. After 4 hits, the 4th phase starts. At this point, they're going to want to do the torch glitch, which they both did by lighting the left torch before the right torch went out, meaning that the right torch will never go out. And now they just need to get 12 spins on them. Each time they light the torch, they're going to try to spin Ganon 3 times based on his warp patterns. And they have to spin at a very precise timing shortly after the fireball or the fire bat attack that Ganon gives. This is how you beat the Ganon fight without silver arrows, by exploiting this very narrow timing when a spin will actually hurt him.
Meanwhile, Ben is cleaning up Mold Arm 2, and Runnerwatcher is on his way there.
All right. Comfortable kill for both of these players. The actual exact timing is going to be very close, but I think Timon might have actually come out slightly ahead.
By about 4 seconds.
Oh, yeah. Just took it by just a few seconds. Unfortunately, Andy lost over a minute in Ganon's tower, and a large amount of that was to hover attempts.
All right, let's see if we can get our runners in here.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Meanwhile, Ben is finishing up Agate 2, and Runnerwatcher is on his way there.
Ben's going to be entering this fight with 6 hearts, which is pretty comfortable. And Runnerwatcher will have even more, probably coming out of Agony 2, depending on what kind of luck he gets. Ooh, unfamiliar with how to handle that pattern there. Should have stood below the lower Phantom. Okay, so he'll be going in with 5.5, which is basically the same as 6.
Meanwhile, Scooge rides away on his motorcycle.
Yeah, sorry about the neighborhood. I don't even think that was a motorcycle. Just some obnoxious car. Good start for Ben. Well, he turned Ganon blue there. That's actually, as far as we know, you have no control over that. The objective there is to get sort of a free hit on Ganon, to take away his HP in the 4th phase, right at the end of the 3rd phase, before the 4th phase properly starts. Sometimes you turn him blue. You know, it's just random. It doesn't do damage to him. Doesn't really slow down the fight much, but you don't get the free hit. Runnerwatcher had a little more trouble in the first 2 phases. Ganon should not warp to the top of the room and do one of those fire bat circle attacks. If he does, then and he hookshotted right into the flame. That was a error there, of course. But he'll go back into the fight with 8 hearts to try again. And he should have no trouble this time. Runnerwatcher, of course, was a last-minute replacement for this race. I don't even know when the last time he ran this game was. So I'd say overall it was still a pretty impressive display from all of the players, really, with just a few major mistakes.
All right, and we're joined by Andy and Timon, who Timon pulled it out at the last... Ooh, Runnerwatcher takes a death.
Another
and
one.
Meanwhile, Ben is showing off some sick moonwalks.
Think he'll actually make it into the Triforce room? Oh, he did. Nice.
All right. Well, congrats, Timon, on your win, and congrats, Andy, on hovering Moldorm too.
Thanks, man.
I tried to I was on YOLO mode because I was far behind, and then chat said, "You failed hover." I was like, "Nope, I'm not gonna go for hover." I would have if I was behind, but.
Well,
but nice run, dude. Nice run. I think we both had really good runs. I'm very satisfied with the run. Really good segments overall.
Same, except for the minute and 9 seconds I lost against Tower.
Yeah.
Well, Andy, I think you had a gold skull. Is that correct? Oh, Runnerwatcher dies again.
Yeah.
He's kind of screwing around now.
That was by my second best ice pillars. It was 614, so it was pretty beast.
Yeah, unfortunately, Ben ran out of bombs trying to do the Ice Palace bomb jump, and then he tried to hover and got down to 1 heart, so he took an intentional death and had to go back through ice. So that's why Ben got 3 minutes behind, and Runnerwatcher took a death at Helmasaur, and I think 1 other place. But all in all, it was between you and Andy and Ben and Runnerwatcher. It was 2 pretty compelling races.
That's nice. It was really exciting for me to play. I knew Andy was ahead, and I thought I was playing really good, and I couldn't catch up. So I was very confused.
It was good.
We just had a good run too.
If I had been a little bit more behind compared to my PB, I wouldn't have gone for the hover.
But anyway, it was nice to how synced were we at after Moldorm?
You guys
pretty synced.
You beat Moldorm, and then about 5 seconds later, Andy hovered across 5 seconds after you hook shot at the chest. So
sick. I was confused at my Ganon fight because the first spin didn't hit, so I had to hit him 13 times. Shoutouts to RBO Taz, right, Sketch?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Runnerwatcher is cleaning up those 12 spins. Yeah, Andy, you were... I think the nerves got you a little bit in T-Rock, in the roller room.
I just hookshotted early, and then the whole room went to crap. It was good. And then I was really worried the entire rest of the T-Rock because I had already gotten my fairy drop. And I'm like, okay, we're doing the rest with 4 hearts, whatever.
Yeah, we both mentioned that you did the spin in Runnerwatcher. What are you doing? you did the spin in Aga's Tower instead of the dash strat. Was that?
I didn't have sword beams, so I don't know how to do it without sword beams.
Ah.
Oh yeah, you got hit by a squirrel or something.
I don't even... Oh yeah, the squirrel juked me when I had spin speed leaving Hera. It was 50-50 whether I went up or down, and he went down and I went down, and...
Bang. Yeah, that's the worst if the squirrel is there.
But yeah, it was...
The most sad thing about this run for me is I gave away a free 2-cycle ammo. I should have had it, but I messed up the timing a little bit. Because I killed the 1 worm in the first cycle, and the second cycle was kind of free then.
Well,
it was fun.
Yes, definitely a good way to celebrate 25 years of a very frustrating but fantastically made video game.
Definitely.
So I think the original plan now was to try to do to have an all dungeons race, but I think unfortunately one of the two all dungeons runners broke their controller today while moving some things around their apartment. So I don't think we have that all dungeons race. So I think Feasel said in chat that we're going to go straight to Super Metroid.
Nice.
I'm not sure about that though. Well, the only thing you can do in less than an hour is Mirror Shield, which is kind of silly, or defeat Ganon.
No EG.
No EG.
I'd race it. I haven't done it in months, but I'd race it.
Timon?
There's no way I can do that right now. Sorry.
Where's Joe D'Amelio, dude? Pincus is sick, right?
Yeah. So I don't know if you would want to just do a glitched category run and have that on Feasel, or what you would want to do for the next hour, Andy, if you were wanting to do that.
Whatever.
An hour sounds a good estimate for any percent OG.
I'm not that bad, okay?
Wow.
Although my hovers were terrible in this run, I'm not that bad.
Well, I've got a bail. Timon, would you be able to stick around and commentate if Andy did another run? Or Andy, would you want to be on voice for that?
Doesn't matter to me. Whatever you guys want to do.
All right.
I can stay here.
I've got to roll on out, but again, congrats Timon on the win, and Andy on a good run, and thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you for coming.
See you, Timon. I mean, Scrivo. Holy shit.
Wow.
Your voices are just so similar.
Wow.
I can't do a German accent, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I guess if Timon wants to do commentary, I could just do an OEG run. That'll take up like 35-ish minutes. I don't think anyone else is around that could actually do one. Alright, sounds good.
So in the meantime, I don't know if we want to have like Runnerwatcher and Ben in here. I'll ask them.
Give a good old interview to Ben and Runnerwatcher while we set up.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask them. Real quick. It was cool to keep it exciting at least. Like, first and second is not set. So upcoming is the category any person no G. What we gonna do? Or are we actually live? I think we are live, right?
Yeah, I think he's just setting up.
And what it is basically EG is the glitch to finish the game within 2 minutes, or 3 minutes is the easy route, and that's not allowed. So we can do out of bounds. YBA is not used in this, but can do out of bounds, which helps us. So we need to finish Ganon's tower to trigger the Ganon fight and kill Ganon. And we need just like 2 items for that basically, which is the Tempered Sword and the Hammer. So it's probably a very short category. It's about sub 30 is a pretty good time. Not sure what your PP is right now.
29:30.
29?
It's from like 2014, I think. I could do an actual any percent afterwards too, and that'll take a couple minutes, and then it'll be time for Super Metroid probably.
Yeah, sure. Then we showed no major glitches, some major glitches, and all the major glitches.
well, the one major glitch.
Yeah, okay, well. Oh, it happens sometimes. Fake flip a soft lock. I mean, nothing really special. The screen just scrolls around. Alright, I'm going offline soon.
We're about to see the greatest glitch of all time.
Oh, I know what's coming. I can commentate with Scotch.
I can. Yeah, for sure. All right, should be good to go. Okay.
Yeah, I guess you can get started.
Yeah, just give me a countdown in the chat, I guess, and I'll
You
go.
have to turn off the Discord audio from your stream.
Oh, okay. Cool.
we're using your timer, so you starts whenever.
Have you introduced the run yet?
Just a little bit, like that we need temperature, but we can talk through generally. So it's not a race, unfortunate. No, it's just Andy basically who can do it right now on the fly. So first of all, the run starts the same as the last race. No major glitches. We do escape and Eastern. The only changes we can save and quit in this category. And after Eastern, when we get the boots, basically the run pumps up. Like it's not an easy category. It requires some eclipse and some weird glitches, like the mirror jump we see later. But we explain when we get through to them.
Yeah. It's also a difficult category to execute aside from the glitches because you have to do Ganon's Tower with 5 hearts, I guess. And
yeah, if you take the Sankard 5 hearts, if you beat Jaden or Pincus, you have 4.
Right, yeah.
But Andy will take the Sankard, I'm pretty sure. It's just brutal.
He's also going to be doing glitches that I don't think he's done in a while, like the mirror jump.
Yeah, that was basically the main concern why I said I don't know if I can do it right now, because I was never consistent at the mirror jump.
Oh yeah, I barely even know how to do it.
So this is basically, and let's explain pumping. No, just kidding, never mind. I think you covered that earlier. We could like say something about the clipping stuff, like how clipping works. So we do one after we get the boots, we will go on Death Mountain, the Death Mountain ascent, without having gloves. So with the boots, you can clip into a wall. Basically, you can basically clip into any diagonal wall, but the boots help a lot with the one frame movement. Or maybe Scott, you explain it. You're more accurate on that topic.
Well, the general idea of most clips is that you can sort of bypass the collision detection of the game by doing specific single frame movements. With the boots, it's a little easier because for some reason, charging a dash and moving laterally will actually move you through diagonal walls. And the reason for that is because diagonal walls sort of cheat the collision detection anyway, because the Super Nintendo constructs the game out of 8 pixel by 8 pixel squares. So a diagonal, wall theoretically doesn't exist in Super Nintendo programming. So it sort of has to cheat its own collision settings to even function. And I think that's why you can bypass it so easily. Sometimes the objective is to go straight through a wall if it's a thin wall, but more often you'll see what we refer to as a teleport, which is a specific kind of manipulation of collision detection where the game sort of overcompensates. Instead of just knocking you out of the wall, it sends you several tiles directly north or directly south of wherever you are. And the way we do this is by clipping in either 8 or 9 pixels into the wall in question. And then reactivating the collision detection, and it just sort of shoots you out, up or down. So that's what we'll be seeing, different applications of that one mostly, and a couple where you just go straight through a wall. With boots, they're a lot easier, and he is going to be getting the boots early in the run, but he's probably not going to be getting the Moon Pearl, which means he won't be able to use the boots for clips while he's a bunny in the Dark World, which is a few clips.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure if he's aware of the new tech like we found this year.
I don't think he's
And
learned it.
I doubt it too. Would be nice to see, but he probably gonna clip in the bunny.
Right. Think he'll do the Eastern Palace clip?
Maybe to show off. I don't know. He's good at clipping, so yeah, he could do that.
Yeah, the Eastern Palace clip is a very small shortcut to get into Eastern Palace. To get to the entrance a little bit faster using a screen wrap. If you do it really well, you save less than 10 seconds. And if you haven't done it for a while, I imagine remembering the exact inputs might be kind of hard. That will be an example of a teleport. The clip itself will be a teleport, and the screen wrap will be achieved a different way. And if he actually does it, I'll explain it at the time. Good key rat RNG. Always nice.
It's a pretty good escape so far.
Yeah, it should be 552. Just about, yeah.
Right, so now we get the advantage about save and quit. It's about 20 seconds if you save and quit to Link's house and then walk to Eastern instead of just walking to Eastern.
Yeah, so he'll probably save and quit without the Sanctuary Heart and then get it later. Yeah. That way he'll get the free heal later at a more opportune time.
I think he said in his chat he will not go for the Eastern clip. It's probably just too rusty for that.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
Take a long time then, yeah.
So Eastern Palace is going to look pretty much the same as it did in the previous runs that we watched. Nice boomerang work.
Man, he wants that rupee. You need 10 rupees in this in this category for the Tempered Sword later.
Yep.
There's a tree you can bonk nearby, which gives 5, so you basically just need 5.
Nice Stalfos room.
I'm actually not sure. I think you should grab the arrows, but he skipped it. Maybe he just forgot. Because you need some arrows to kill ice armors in Ganon's tower. And there aren't really a lot of opportunities to get arrows.
Yeah, there's like an optional arrow plot in this dungeon. If you don't get it, you can still probably have enough to get through this dungeon itself, but you're not going to have many to spare. Or you might end up not having enough for the final boss of this dungeon if you don't get good drops. But yeah, you'll probably want the extras. I don't know the exact arrow route. And there's the last rupees that he needs for the whole run.
We're set.
Alright, so he did get one arrow drop, so he didn't end up with enough to get through the boss fight, but that is going to put him pretty low afterwards.
I think he can still be fine. You can get 15 arrows on Ganondorf pretty easily with the chest. And I'm pretty sure he's aware of how to grab the chest.
Yeah, for sure. Alright, so now he gets the boots from Sahasrara like normal, but after that he's going to save and quit and load back at the Sanctuary. When you load after a save and quit, you don't start at full hearts, so he will grab the Sanctuary heart for the refill and for the additional heart, because after that he has to go straight to Death Mountain. And it's going to be a little more challenging than normal because he's not actually going to be able to see all of the squirrels and boulders that are capable of killing him. So it'll be interesting. Alright, so to get up to the mountain, he's going to do a glitch called Death Mountain Ascent. And this is going to be one of the teleports that I mentioned earlier. He's going to do dash buffers to get into the cliffside, exactly 8 pixels. And then he's going to reactivate collision detection to do an upward teleport. It's going to look a little bit weird because it's not going to look like he moves upward, but he's actually going to move upward beyond the limits of the screen transition. So the game's going to underflow his coordinates, sort of, so it thinks he's on the screen above him. But because he didn't properly activate the screen transition, he's going to continue interacting with the objects on the screen that he's on. It's not going to reload the screen north of his
second attempt.
And whatnot.
Oh, he was on a wrong starting position, I think.
Yeah. So after he does that, since the game thinks he's one screen farther north of where he is based on his pure coordinates, yeah, you can't remember.
Well, he didn't do this clip for a while.
Yeah,
he should do it like an RBO, like boot.
So it appeared that he moved down before moving to the side, but he actually moved up. And because the screen that he's on has a big opening on the east side of it, he can actually use that transition to move to the right. And because the game thinks he's one screen farther north, he actually ends up one screen north and east of where he started, which happens to be on Death Mountain. Then you have to move up and down to fix the camera. That's kind of hard to explain, but that's basically all there is to it. You just move up and down. But as you're doing that, the squirrels are running around you and the boulders are falling down. And you can't really see them because, the camera's wrapped around. So where you appear to be and where they appear to be aren't actually lined up. And it's possible to get knocked around a bit, totally out of your control. But it didn't happen this time. He got up there with 4 hearts. So we should be good to go from here.
Yeah, now there's an option. You need the tempered sword and the hammer. So the hammer you achieve by another clip in the cave in Death Mountain called the Kiki Skip, and the tempered sword you get when you do Death Mountain Descent to get to Dark World Kakariko.
And that's
doesn't really matter much which order you do. So it seems like he's doing tempered sword first. It has a slight advantage because in the cave where you perform the Kiki Skip, there are Moldorms, and with a fighter sword you need 2 hits. With a tempered sword you only need 1 hit. That's like the only thing I can think of. What's the difference?
Yeah, that's pretty much the only difference. All right, so here because he can't use his boots as a bunny, he has to do a single frame movements. The single frame diagonal movements allow him to bypass the collision detection here to get into this wall. In this case, he's not going to do a teleport, but he's going to jump through this wall in a particularly precise way, so he lands halfway between the screen transition. And then when he activates the transition, strangely enough, it causes this weird auto-walking thing to trigger, and he'll walk like half a screen down on the next screen, which very conveniently moves you through some trees that you would otherwise be stuck in if you were able to activate this transition normally. So it's a pretty cool way to get down to the lower world in the Dark World, without having killed Aghanim or collected the hammer and the mitts, and the moon pearl and everything else that you need to do it any other way. Needs to move up a little bit on the slope before he jumps.
Yeah, if you don't do it correctly, you can actually soft lock on this clip.
You will soft lock. And he hasn't done this in a long time. I don't think he really remembers exactly how to do it. But he remembered the most important thing, which is to move up a little bit. I think he just moved up a little too far.
Yeah, and for this, actually, this clip is not used anymore in the recent route. There was blank 47, I think, did find something with a mirror transition.
Yeah.
Which I don't know exactly how it works, but you can get off Death Mountain with it.
Yeah, it's a faster way to get down. You sort of bypass the descent aspect of Death Mountain descent by mirroring while activating a screen transition, which well, the screen, it's hard to explain. Really,
I think
the screen's wrapped around.
We shouldn't really go into that in detail because now we got the mirror glitch and
Oh, yeah.
we will not see the mirror transition anyway. But it just roughly saves about 20 seconds.
Yeah.
So now we got the mirror jump, it's called. So first of all, Andy's gonna set up his position with just mirroring in the light and dark world on certain positions. And after, I think, 4 mirrors, he's going on the stairs now, and 2 more mirrors, and then he has to perform a mirror jump, which is on the last and the second to last frame before you jump. You can use the mirror, basically. And if you do that, Link, as the bunny, moves 1 pixel to the left and mirrors after that.
And
he got it
first try.
So the problem with this is, how do you know when you're on the 18th frame? Because you're select buffering and the movement is the same every time. But we use the frog as a cue because the frog jumps up and down and you can use that as a cue, basically. So he got it first try. So this is how you get the frog without having the Titan mitts. It skips the Titan mitts.
Yep, and this is the part of the run I was most worried about, and it went perfectly.
Exactly. It's just so random sometimes. Sometimes it works, sometimes you can be stuck in an infinite forever there.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a big time loss if you accidentally jump.
Yeah, exactly. If you press mirror too late, you will jump down and have to do the whole setup again. So now he's gonna get the tempered sword, save and quit, and then we need the hammer still. And after that we can go to the tower.
And luckily, the sequence in which he gets the hammer is something that he has practiced a lot recently in reverse boss order.
Yeah, there shouldn't be an issue on the Kiki skip.
Right. So this will be another downward teleport. This time I'll do it inside of a cave, and I'll activate the screen transition, which takes him simply to another room in the underworld map. And this room just happens to be adjacent to a room in Palace of Darkness. And when you go in from a cave, the game still has the cave itself loaded. That was a very good clip, actually.
Wow.
Because of that,
that's just wow.
Yeah,
really fast.
The default value, or like the null value for a key counter, which is what's normally, the case in a cave, is actually 255. So he can unlock any doors that he wants. He also has the big key by default in this situation, so he can go get the hammer.
He's going for the fancy bomb jump.
Yeah, he's going to do a fancy bomb jump, and he got it. And then he's going to do the regular bomb jump, which he should have less trouble with even than that one. It's picking up extra bombs, which I guess that doesn't hurt. He will need a couple for Galen's Tower.
Pretty nice.
Got the hammer and out of there.
So now we will do one more clip. So the last clip is coming up, and this clip is to get into the Ganon's Tower, basically. First of all, we do screen wrap to the top of the Death Mountain and enter the warp, which is like on the top of Death Mountain. And now we have to do a bunny clip again to do basically the same. Another screen wrap to get on top of Death Mountain, where the Ganon Tower is.
Yeah, this is sort of the opposite of Death Mountain Ascent. In that case, you did an upward teleport to go past the screen transition, but in this case, you're actually jumping off a ledge to jump through the screen transition. So right now, the game actually thinks he's like on the pyramid screen, but again, because he never actually activated the transition properly, it didn't reload any of the assets, any of the objects that you would collide with, and things like the warp, so we could use that.
He's thinking about the pixel. He needs to be in a certain position, and now, can he come back on this?
He's gonna try.
I didn't actually know you can.
Yeah, I guess you
but
can.
Apparently you got it. Nice.
Yeah. So he'll try to do another screen wrap here, and he'll basically land on top of Ganon's tower entrance and just walk right in. But you gotta get the pixel right.
Yeah, I think there are like 2 or 3 pixels in the wall which work. Not sure exactly. But we're gonna listen to the bunny music. Which is
Nothing
nice.
wrong with that.
I think a pixel higher should be it.
Yeah, that's good.
And now we are in Ganon's tower. Now we have to, like, he has to kill himself now for once, because in the bunny you can't do anything. But obviously, and if you die in a dungeon, in the Dark World dungeon, you will respawn in the dungeon again. So we take advantage of that and can proceed further with Link.
Yeah, based on what like progress flags are set in the game, will determine whether you load in the light world or the dark world and die. Before Aghanim 1 is dead, you always respawn in the light world, and that's so that during that short time when you're a bunny before getting into the Tower of Hera, you don't like save and quit, load at the pyramid, and then sequence break. So wait until after Aghanim is dead until you can actually load in the dark world. But you also always load at the beginning of a dungeon when you die in a dungeon. So he sort of reloaded into the beginning of this dungeon in the light world, and that's why he's able to get through it without needing the Moon Pearl to stay as regular Link. You'll notice that the pots are actually light world pots instead of skull pots from the dark world. That's pretty much how you can tell that he's actually in the light world as far as the game's concerned. Now that doesn't have really any effect inside of the dungeon until he gets to the end, where he'll actually be fighting the first Aghanim fight instead of the second, because the 2 Aghanim fights are a shared sprite, meaning they share a code, and they do a circumstantial check to determine. Oh, nice hover.
What? That was a pretty fast hover.
Yeah, he's very,
that seemed
very
like a
fast
tour hover too. That was actually very fast. I didn't know he's.
Yeah, quite fast. And as I was saying, he'll just fight Aghanim 1 because the sprite itself only checks which world you're in to determine which one to load. But the scripted event still plays correctly because that checks the room that you're in to determine which scripted event to play. So it will open up Ganon's room properly, even though it seems like the wrong Aghanim fight. So yeah, he's going to need to grab these arrows. As you mentioned earlier, he'll grab the chest. He's going to wait for the anti-fairy, which might take a little while.
There we go.
Yeah, he doesn't want to risk taking
strategy for picking up, but he just doesn't remember, I guess. No shame, no blame. I have to relook at the race and wonder what happened at my ice armors. I think I shot above the ice armors. I don't know.
It didn't start rotating right away, right?
I missed the left.
Did Andy? Oh my gosh! He turned before opening up the arrow chest.
I mean, they're backup arrows here, so he knows about it.
He's gonna get some backups. Wow.
Fortunately, it's just the arrows. But Andy is known for his mirrors before opening chests. So let's do the hammer jump. So usually we take 3 hearts of damage in this room to make it very fast, but he just has 5 hearts, so you don't want to take any damage there.
It's a pretty easy, safe way to move through that room, so you might as well do it. Yeah, every heart is worth so much more in this category than pretty much any other. Ooh. A little trouble in the spike pit.
That's okay. Safe.
He didn't hit the switch on his way out, so he is going to have a awkward switch position later. That shouldn't really matter too much, but we'll see if it throws him off a little bit if he doesn't expect it. All right, the gauntlet is probably the most likely place to lose hearts here. He has to be extra careful. Pay close attention to where the BMOS eyes are, so he knows if they're going to fire, and he knows to dodge them. Squeezing past him with the conveyors. Really scary because the spikes are on the other side. You don't want to touch the BMOS or the spikes. So far, so good.
Looked like a pretty clean gauntlet.
And yeah, I think, it'll be damageless. Nice. So going to wait for the bunny beam there. If you delay your entering the Lamola's room, then the spawns can actually synchronize, which means you can get a spin-off that hits all 3 of them right away. And that's nice.
And apparently a double hit.
Oh yeah, double hit to kill one of them on the first cycle. And then clean them up with just 1 extra spin each.
Yeah, there are now coming up a couple fun torch room strats with a lantern because we don't have the fire rod in this category.
Also killing these whiz robes without the King of Samaria.
Oh yeah. Let's see if we can one cycle this room. It's a pretty tough strategy.
No, he did not, but he got hit, I think, by the spike.
Yeah,
well, if he got hit by a whiz robe, he'd be dead.
Yeah. That's pretty crucial. They do 4 hearts of damage.
Yeah. Let's see if he knows the new second torch room strat. Oh, I believe he does. Well, okay, not exactly, but close enough. It worked. He didn't have to take any damage. Didn't have to do anything scary.
You bonk over the hole, don't you?
Yeah.
Something like that.
And here's where the pegs are in the wrong position. So maybe it threw him off a little bit, but it didn't take him long to realize what was going on. Oh, well.
He doesn't
doing a
loop-de-loop though. But, he's getting the heart. Let's see if he can get the hover this time first try.
So in this category, he actually has to hover, and yeah, that was fast.
That was
he hovered really fast.
Wow. I didn't know that he's that fast.
Yeah, I hover at probably 1/4 of that speed.
Yeah, exactly. And with this hover, you can save 6 seconds at Mold On too, yes.
We save minutes in this category.
Yeah. And now we fight Aghanim 1, which is kind of unfortunate in this category. The category is just about 30 minutes long, and the second and last boss fight is pure RNG. So it's kind of a grind if you want to go for a good PB or a world record.
Yeah, it's really a shame.
You're on a good run, and you just get 5 blue balls, and it's all gone.
Yeah, and then you finally do get good RNG, and you have to fight Ganon, way underpowered. So the nerves are on, and yeah, not a fun category to run in my opinion, but some people do enjoy it.
I mean, it's fun for a couple runs and stuff.
it's fun when you're actually really good at it.
There is I used to do another route. There are like easier routes for this category, which are slower definitely, where you don't have to do the hover or the mirror jump. Like you get the flippers, the titan mids,
The hook shot.
the hook shot exactly, and I think an estimate about a very good run is like 35 to 37 minutes.
Yeah.
Compared to 28. So it's definitely much slower, but if you can't do the hover, you still can do this category. So this fight is a little bit different now. Okay, for this RNG it's actually the same, because you don't have a hook shot.
Right.
For the outside two RNGs, you have to improve with another strategy to get inside the cycle and
good Ganon bats,
finish.
because he didn't mess up Ice Armos.
Oh, I had bad Ganon bets, and I realized very late. I was kind of scared.
All right, after he gets out of the first couple phases, the fight becomes a lot more comfortable. He won't have the Fire Rod, which means that some Ganon warp positions are going to be tough, because he has to try to light the torch and then chase him down. Like, for example, top right, you can almost never hit him there. So yeah, the fight can potentially be a little slower for that reason, but other than that, it's not like significantly more difficult at this point. It should be comfortable to get through it.
Oh yeah, black shield and black sword.
Yeah, if you complete Ganon's tower in Fake Dark World, yeah, there's just a little palette glitch that happens when you reload.
If you actually on the top of the pyramid warp in the light world, you are completely. Link's sprite is completely white, I think.
Yeah, completely white. No details at all.
Was it in
All right.
any all dungeons? I don't know. And there we go. Not a bad run.
GG.
First try hover, first try mirror jump.
Yeah.
That's actually really good. GG to Andy.
I think Andy wanted to show off like a regular any percent run as well, which will be nice because then we'll have done any percent no major glitches, any percent no EG, and just vanilla any percent all in a row. All the varieties of any percent.
I think we got time, about 20 minutes till this metro race starts. I don't think he has to scroll through the credits completely. Should I could say to him that he can just start the any percent, or?
Sean Cast bringing up any percent no out of bounds, as if that's a real category. Defeat Ganon or any percent. Well, do you think you can actually get through a defeat Ganon run? Sorry, that was kind of cold.
I mean, he could, right? If he's confident with it. No more arbitrary restrictions. All right, Mike. Mike speaking the word. Alright, so he's gonna show off the true any percent, and hopefully he's gonna get a better time than 2:52, I believe is the optimal time for safe.
You can get a 2:51.
You can get a 2:51, alright.
Alright, so a lot of people
probably gets a 2:45 or something with pumping, but
All right, so a lot of people probably know about the save and quit route here. You jump off a ledge, save and quit in midair, walk back in the castle, get hit by a guard, you go under the floor, you walk to the Triforce. That's the easy way. Anybody can do it. You can beat 3 minutes doing that without even trying. 251 if you optimize your movement like perfectly, but with faster routes, which are much more difficult, you can get as low as a 136. I think is the record right now. And I think Indy has a 137. So pretty good time. So let's see which route he chooses. Okay, he's gonna do fake flippers.
You can't expect. Wait. He's gonna do the fake flipper route.
Yeah, I think he's doing fake flippers. Okay, so he's gonna clip through this wall, similar to other clips that we've mentioned before, by doing single frame alternating diagonal movements. And then he's gonna land 1 frame or 1 pixel from the screen transition so we can activate it and do fake flippers, as we saw in the 90% NMG route. Then he's gonna enter a cave and do a clip there, which I'll explain when he gets there.
The thing is, this category, clipping-wise, is so inconsistent.
Ooh, talk to the guy. Okay, he got through. All right.
That you basically, it's a rare appearance that it's actually faster than 252, but
yeah,
we see he probably can do it soon.
You can jump back and bounce through those corners if you swim right up into him through a screen transition. All right, so now he's going to do an upward teleport, which is actually going to put him on the upper layer, floating above the lower layer in that area near the stairs. He's going to use the pause menu, the start menu, to buffer his movements here, because you actually can't use the select menu inside of a cave before you've gotten your sword. Who knows why, really.
Yeah, that's the part why I gave up on this stuff.
Yeah,
it's really hard to time the start menu because it opens and it doesn't go away instantly. It has a delay. You have to count.
So he needs to get 6 single frame diagonal movements in a row here before he can get the teleport. This is why it's hard to beat the jump save and quit route. But if you want to get a good time here, it's a 2 minute and some change run, or less. You can do it hundreds of times in a day until you get a good run if you're really committed to it. So we'll see. Hopefully you can get it without too many more tries. Yeah, some players can do it unbuffered. It's a little easier with a keyboard. You can tap the 2 D-pad inputs, or I guess the 2 keys to get a diagonal very quickly. But some people can actually do it a little bit on a controller. Zelda has done a run with unbuffered inputs on a SNES controller, and Alpha Particle has as well.
I think Zelda's PB has a controller cam.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly. And he does a weird hammer-on strategy.
Yeah. Fortunately, we did not beat the jump, save, and quit route. Almost there. Now he needs to move up left some amount. That'll be good. And then it'll jump through the wall to the lower layer, because when you hit a ledge from the opposite direction, it simply activates as a ledge would, jumps you to the lower layer. But in this case, it jumps you to the lower layer where there shouldn't be one, through the floor. And then you can walk to the top.
Shut us to text.
Yeah, Zelda text happens if you're a little too slow. It'll be sub 4 though. Still a pretty impressive amount of time to beat a Zelda game.
And series gamified and done. Pretty nice. And so the game was in a raining state, so the credits will be a little bit different.
Oh yeah, the credits will be.
You may know. So that'll be fun to watch the credits till the end. GG to Andy, and thanks everyone for watching. Hope you enjoyed today. Link to the past block. Alright, I guess I'm gonna tune out and let the credits roll, and then in like 14 minutes we're gonna be back with Super Metroid, I think.
Yep, I believe that's what's coming up next. I guess I'll bid you guys farewell and let Fiesel do the transition then.
Alright, thanks for watching Link to the Past on the 25th anniversary of its release. Happy birthday, Link to the Past. Coming up next, we have a game that's not celebrating its anniversary, but it's still a great game. It's Super Metroid 100% Tournament. It's the first day of that tournament, and we've got a 4-way race for you coming up next in just over 10 minutes. And after that, we have Super Mario World races. We're going to do an all castles and a 96 exit race to celebrate the 26th anniversary of the release of Super Mario World in Japan, way back in 1990. So stick around. And make sure to follow Andy and the other runners from today's races.